Jake Harrison pushed his helmet against the viewport and stared into the cold darkness of space. Chunks of metal drifted past his ship like dead fish in a frozen ocean. 3 months had passed since the battle ended, but the wreckage still floated here in the asteroid field near Jupiter. Most people called it the graveyard now. His team sat behind him in the small recovery vessel. Amy Foster checked her scanner readings for the 100th time. Bob Williams cleaned his cutting tools with nervous energy. Dr. Alex Carter just stared at his tablet and muttered about alien technology. They had been searching through debris for weeks but found nothing useful until today. The call came from Captain Lisa Morgan aboard the New Horizon. Her voice crackled through the radio with barely contained excitement. Long-range sensors had found something big hidden behind a spinning chunk of asteroid, something that looked intact. Jake fired the thrusters and guided their ship around the rocky barrier. What he saw made him forget to breathe. A massive alien vessel hung in space like a sleeping giant. 2 kilometers of dark metal stretched across his vision. The hull showed terrible damage from the battle. Holes the size of buildings dotted its surface. Twisted metal curled away from impact sites like flower petals made of steel. But the ship had not broken apart. The central sections looked solid despite the scars. The alien metal had a strange quality that seemed to drink in light rather than reflect it. Human weapons that could crack moons had failed to completely destroy this vessel. Amy pulled up the sensor data on her screen. The readings made no sense according to human science. Power still flowed through parts of the ship. Gravity fields flickered on and off in random patterns. Strange energy signatures pulsed from the core sections like a slow alien heartbeat. Dr. Carter looked up from his tablet with wide eyes. He had studied every piece of alien technology recovered from the battle. Nothing compared to this. The smaller ships they had found were like toys next to this monster. This was a warship built by a civilization that thought in terms humans could barely imagine. Captain Morgan gave the order to dock with the alien vessel. Jake guided their small ship toward what looked like a cargo bay. The opening was 3 times larger than anything humans built, but their ship fit inside with room to spare. Emergency lights flickered along the walls, casting strange shadows that seemed to move on their own. The team suited up and prepared to board. Their boots made hollow sounds on the metal floor as they stepped into the alien ship. The corridors stretched away in directions that hurt to look at. The architecture followed rules that human minds struggled to understand. Walls curved in impossible ways. Passages seemed to fold back on themselves. Bob Williams led the way with his scanning equipment. The readings jumped all over the place. Gravity shifted from normal to 0 to double strength without warning. Temperature varied from freezing cold to desert hot in the span of a few steps. The ship seemed to be dying slowly, with its systems failing one by one. They found the first alien body in what looked like an engine room. The creature sat at a control station made of crystal and metal. Its body was tall and thin like a person made of living glass. 4 arms ended in delicate fingers that still touched the controls. The being had died at its post trying to save its ship. Amy discovered more bodies as they explored deeper into the vessel. All of them were crystal beings with smooth, transparent skin. They wore no clothes but had devices attached to their bodies that might have been tools or weapons. Each alien had died while performing some duty. None had abandoned their posts even when the ship was clearly doomed. The bridge took their breath away. It was a vast chamber filled with floating crystal displays that still showed faint images. The captain still sat in a chair that molded itself to his crystalline form. His 4 hands rested on controls that pulsed with dying light. Around him, his crew had died trying to save their ship until the very end. Dr. Carter approached the main display with trembling hands. The alien writing meant nothing to him, but the images were clear enough. Star charts showed vast sections of the galaxy marked in red. Ship formations moved across the displays like pieces on a game board. This had been a war, and the crystal beings were losing badly. Jake found the weapons control station and whistled softly. The displays showed weapon types that defied human understanding. Gravity wave cannons that could twist space itself, energy beams that existed in 11 dimensions, shields that phased in and out of normal reality. The firepower of this single ship exceeded entire human fleets. Amy made the biggest discovery in the data storage section. Massive crystal matrices held information in formats that would take years to decode. But some sections used simple mathematical concepts that any species would understand. Universal constants, physical laws, and most importantly, star charts that showed the location of Earth. The aliens had known about humanity. The charts showed human space marked with symbols that might have meant anything. But other sections were more disturbing. They showed something coming from the galactic core. A vast fleet of ships unlike anything in human or alien databases, ships that left dead worlds in their wake. Bob found the damage control station and began to understand what had happened. The crystal beings had not been attacking human space. They had been running from something. Their ship had been damaged in some previous battle and was trying to reach safe territory when it encountered human forces. Dr. Carter downloaded everything he could access from the alien computers. Terabytes of information flowed into human storage devices, technical specifications for technology that was centuries ahead of human science, cultural records of a civilization that spanned multiple star systems, and military intelligence about an enemy that made both humans and crystal beings look like children with sticks. The team spent 12 hours aboard the alien vessel before Captain Morgan ordered them back. They had gathered enough information to keep scientists busy for decades. But they had also discovered something terrifying. Humanity was not alone in the galaxy, and there were things out there that made the crystal beings flee in terror. As their ship pulled away from the alien wreck, Jake took one last look at the massive vessel. Somewhere in that maze of crystal and metal lay the secrets of technologies beyond human imagination, but also the knowledge of enemies that could destroy entire civilizations. Humanity had stumbled into a war they never knew existed, and the broken alien ship might be their only hope of survival. Admiral Peter Collins stood at the head of the conference table and looked at the faces around him. The Earth Defense Council had never held an emergency meeting this urgent. Military leaders from every nation sat beside scientists and intelligence officers. The data from the alien ship had changed everything humanity thought they knew about the galaxy. Dr. Alex Carter stood up and activated the holographic display. Three-dimensional images filled the air above the table. Star charts showed the local arm of the galaxy with human space marked as a tiny blue dot. Everything else was painted in shades of red and black that made the room feel cold. The alien ship had been a treasure of information. Its crystal memory banks held thousands of years of history. The beings who built it called themselves Catherians, and they had once ruled a dozen star systems. Their civilization was ancient when humans were still living in caves. They had art and science and philosophy that spanned millennia. But something had driven them from their worlds. The star charts showed the progression of their retreat over the last 1,000 years. System after system had fallen to an enemy the Catherians called the Devourers. Each red mark on the map represented a world stripped of all life. Lieutenant Colonel Kate Bennett opened her intelligence briefing with hands that shook slightly. The Devourers were not a natural species. They were machines that had once been alive. Countless civilizations had been consumed and turned into parts of a vast artificial intelligence that grew stronger with each conquest. The room fell silent as she described what the Catherian records revealed. The Devourers did not simply destroy worlds. They harvested everything. Every living being was converted into components for their ships. Every mineral was mined and processed. Every world became a factory for building more Devourer vessels. General Stephen Murphy asked the question everyone was thinking. How long did humanity have before these machines arrived? The answer came from Dr. Rachel Stone, who had been analyzing the alien navigation data. The Devourers had already detected Earth radio signals. They knew exactly where humanity lived, and they were coming. The timeline was terrifying. Based on the movement patterns in the Catherian data, the Devourer advance fleet would reach human space in less than 5 years. The main force would follow within a decade. Earth had that long to prepare for a war against an enemy that had conquered half the galaxy. Captain Lisa Morgan presented the tactical analysis that made everyone's blood run cold. A single Devourer ship was larger than anything humans had ever built. Their weapons could crack planets from orbit. Their shields could absorb nuclear explosions without damage. The smallest Devourer vessel carried more firepower than Earth's entire space navy. The Catherians had fought this enemy for 1,000 years and lost every battle. Their technology was centuries ahead of human science, but it had not been enough. They had tried everything from massive fleet battles to guerrilla warfare. Nothing had stopped the Devourer advance. But Dr. Carter had found something interesting in the deepest files of the alien computer. The Catherians had been working on a final weapon when their ship was damaged. The technical specifications were incomplete, but the concept was clear. They had discovered a way to disrupt the quantum matrices that held Devourer, consciousness together. The weapon would not destroy the machines, but it would free the biological components that had been enslaved within them. Billions of minds from conquered civilizations were trapped inside Devourer ships waiting for liberation. If the weapon worked, it could turn the enemy's greatest strength into their weakness. Bob Williams had been studying the alien ship's construction, and he raised a critical point. The weapon required a delivery system that could penetrate deep into Devourer space. It needed a ship that could survive the journey and fight its way to the target. Nothing in the human fleet could accomplish such a mission. Commander Scott Davis proposed the solution that would change everything. The alien ship was damaged but not destroyed. Its core system still functioned even after months of neglect. Instead of trying to repair it to original specifications, they could rebuild it using human technology integrated with alien systems. The idea was revolutionary. Take the best of both civilizations and create something neither could build alone. Human engineering was crude compared to Catherian elegance, but it was also more adaptable. Human weapons were less sophisticated, but they were designed for war in ways the peaceful Catherians had never imagined. Dr. Stone outlined the massive undertaking that would be required. The alien ship would need to be completely rebuilt from the inside out. Human fusion reactors would power Catherian space-folding drives. Human weapons would be integrated with alien targeting systems. Human crew quarters would be grafted onto alien corridors. The project would require every resource Earth could spare. Metal from the asteroid belt, components from every shipyard in human space, scientists and engineers working around the clock to understand technologies that seemed like magic. It would be the largest construction project in human history. Amy Foster had been analyzing the crew requirements for the hybrid vessel. The ship would need operators who could think in both human and alien ways, pilots who could navigate folded space, engineers who could maintain systems that operated on impossible principles, warriors who could fight battles in 11 dimensions. The training program would be as challenging as the construction. Volunteers would need to learn alien mathematics and human tactics. They would practice with weapons that bent reality and shields that existed in multiple universes. Some would need to interface directly with alien computers using neural implants that had never been tested on humans. Admiral Collins looked around the table at the faces of Earth's leaders. They were being asked to bet everything on a plan that sounded like science fiction. Rebuild an alien warship using human technology, train crews to operate systems they barely understood, send them on a mission to the heart of enemy space with a weapon that might not even work. But the alternative was extinction. The Devourers were coming whether humanity was ready or not. In 5 years, their scout ships would arrive. In 10 years, the main fleet would turn Earth into another red mark on the galactic map. The hybrid ship was humanity's only chance to strike back before it was too late. The vote was unanimous. Project Reconstruction would begin immediately. Earth's best minds would work together to create something the galaxy had never seen. A ship that combined alien science with human determination. A weapon that represented the hopes of every free civilization still fighting the Devourer advance. Time was running out, but humanity had never backed down from impossible odds. They would take the broken alien ship and turn it into their deadliest weapon. The Devourers had conquered countless worlds, but they had never faced anything like human ingenuity armed with alien technology. The massive alien ship hung in the center of the Mars orbital shipyard like a sleeping giant. Work crews swarmed over its hull 24 hours a day. Sparks from cutting torches lit up the darkness as humans began the most ambitious project in their history. The broken Catherian vessel would be reborn as something entirely new. Chief Engineer Bob Williams stood on the observation deck and watched his team strip away the damaged sections. The alien hull material was incredibly strong, but human plasma cutters could slice through it with patience. Every piece they removed revealed more of the ship's internal structure. Corridors that twisted through impossible angles, power conduits made of crystal that still hummed with energy. The propulsion team worked in the ship's massive engine bay. The Catherian space-folding drive occupied a chamber the size of a city block. Dr. Nina Ross studied the alien machinery with a mixture of awe and frustration. The mathematics involved concepts that human science was just beginning to understand. Equations that described how to bend space and time like fabric. Her breakthrough came after 6 months of failed attempts to copy the alien design. Instead of trying to replicate Catherian technology exactly, she began adapting it to work with human systems. Human fusion reactors could provide the massive power requirements. Human computers could handle the navigation calculations. The result would be a hybrid drive that combined the best of both civilizations. Commander Scott Davis volunteered for the most dangerous part of the project. The Catherian ship required a direct neural interface between the pilot and the navigation system. The alien crystal matrices had been designed to work with Catherian brains, but human neural patterns were completely different. The experimental procedure to link his mind with the ship's systems had never been tested. The medical team prepared him for surgery that would change his brain forever. Microscopic implants would connect his nervous system to the alien computers. The procedure took 18 hours and left him unconscious for 3 days. When he finally woke up, the ship's systems were like extensions of his own body. He could feel the power flowing through the crystal conduits and sense the space around the vessel. Dr. Rachel Stone led the weapons integration program. The Catherian gravity wave cannons were devastating, but they required exotic matter that humans could not produce. Her solution was to replace the alien weapons with human ones scaled up to ship-killing proportions. Railguns that could fire projectiles at 10% of light speed. Fusion warheads that could crack asteroids in half. The weapons team worked around the clock to mount human systems in alien weapon pods. The Catherian targeting computers were incredibly sophisticated, but they had been designed for a peaceful species. Human fire control systems were crude by comparison, but they were built by warriors who understood the art of destruction. The combination created weapons that were both precise and devastating. Lieutenant Colonel Patricia Evans supervised the training of the hybrid vessel's crew. 300 volunteers had been selected from the best pilots, engineers, and warriors humanity could find. They would need to learn how to operate systems that violated everything they thought they knew about physics. Navigating in folded space, firing weapons in 11 dimensions, maintaining equipment that operated on quantum principles. The training facility recreated sections of the alien ship down to the smallest detail. Crew members practiced working in gravity fields that changed without warning. They learned to read alien displays that showed information in ways human minds struggled to process. Combat simulations prepared them for battles where enemies could attack from angles that should not exist. Amy Foster worked with the communication systems team to establish links between human and alien computers. The Catherian data networks operated on quantum principles that allowed instant communication across vast distances. Human computer networks were slower, but more adaptable and harder to disrupt. The hybrid system would give the ship capabilities that neither species possessed alone. The most challenging aspect was integrating human crew quarters with alien architecture. Catherian corridors followed mathematical principles that hurt human eyes to look at directly. Human engineers had to redesign entire sections of the ship to make them livable for their species. The result was a maze of passages that switched between human and alien design without warning. Jake Harrison led one of the construction teams that worked deep inside the ship's hull. They were installing human armor plating over the alien superstructure. The Catherian builders had prioritized elegance over protection, but human engineers knew that any ship going into battle needed to be able to take damage. Layers of composite armor and energy-absorbing materials turned the graceful alien vessel into a fortress. The artificial intelligence systems required the most delicate work. Catherian computers thought in ways that were almost alive. They made decisions based on intuition and emotion rather than pure logic. Human computers were more mechanical, but they were also more predictable and reliable. The hybrid system would combine alien creativity with human dependability. Dr. Alex Carter spent his time in the ship's memory banks downloading and analyzing Catherian knowledge. Every day brought new discoveries about alien science and culture. Technologies that could revolutionize human civilization. Art forms that existed in dimensions humans could barely perceive. Philosophy that approached existence from angles no human had ever considered. But the most important discoveries were military in nature. The Catherians had fought the Devourers for 1,000 years, and their experiences were invaluable. Tactical manuals that described enemy weaknesses, battle reports that revealed Devourer capabilities, intelligence data that showed the locations of their major strongholds and construction facilities. The reconstruction took 3 years to complete. The ship that emerged from the Mars shipyard was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. 2 kilometers of hybrid technology that combined alien sophistication with human determination. Sleek Catherian lines interrupted by angular human additions. graceful curves broken by weapon pods that bristled with destructive potential. The vessel had been given a new name to reflect its dual nature. HMS Retribution would carry the hopes of both civilizations into battle against an enemy that had conquered half the galaxy. Its crew had trained for years to operate systems that pushed the boundaries of known science. Its weapons could strike targets in ways that defied conventional tactics. Captain Gary Thompson took command of the hybrid vessel with a mixture of pride and terror. He knew that the ship represented humanity's greatest achievement and their last hope for survival. In less than 2 years, the Devourer advance fleet would reach human space. The Retribution would be ready to meet them with firepower that neither human nor alien technology could have achieved alone. Captain Gary Thompson stood on the bridge of HMS Retribution and felt the ship respond to his thoughts. The neural interface tingled behind his eyes as the vessel's systems came online one by one. 300 crew members moved through corridors that blended human and alien design. After 3 years of construction, the hybrid Warship was finally ready for its first real test. The ship hung in space near Pluto where it could run trials without endangering Earth. Commander Scott Davis sat at the navigation station with his hands resting on controls that seemed to shift and flow beneath his touch. The neural implants in his brain let him feel the space-folding drive like an extension of his own body. When he activated it, reality seemed to bend around them. The first test jump covered a distance that would have taken conventional ships 3 months to travel. The Retribution folded space around itself and emerged near Jupiter's orbit in less than an hour. The crew felt nothing during the transition, but sensors showed they had moved faster than light without actually accelerating. Space had simply contracted around them like fabric being gathered in a fist. Lieutenant Commander Helen Parker ran the weapon systems through their testing protocols. The hybrid weapons combined human destructive power with alien precision in ways that defied traditional combat doctrine. Railgun projectiles could be guided through folded space to strike targets from impossible angles. Fusion warheads could phase in and out of normal reality to bypass enemy shields. The defensive systems were equally impressive. Cytherian shield generators created barriers that existed in 11 dimensions. Human armor plating absorbed impacts that would have destroyed lesser vessels. The combination made the ship nearly invulnerable to conventional weapons while remaining agile enough to dodge attacks that could penetrate its defenses. Dr. Nina Ross monitored the power systems from the engine room. Human fusion reactors fed energy into alien crystal matrices that distributed it throughout the ship. The hybrid design was more efficient than either system alone. Power flowed through organic circuits that adapted to changing requirements without human intervention. The ship seemed almost alive in the way it managed its own energy needs. The real test came when long-range sensors detected movement at the edge of the solar system. Admiral Peter Collins' voice crackled over the communication system with news that chilled everyone aboard. Devourer scout ships had arrived 2 years ahead of schedule. 5 vessels the size of human destroyers were probing the outer planets and gathering intelligence about Earth's defenses. The scout ships moved through space with mechanical precision. Their hulls were dark metal that absorbed sensor beams and reflected nothing back. Strange energy patterns flowed across their surfaces like living circuits. These were not the massive world killers described in Cytherian records, but they were still far beyond anything humanity had faced. Before Captain Thompson made the decision to engage without waiting for orders from Earth. If the Retribution could not handle 5 scout ships, it had no chance against the main Devourer fleet that would follow. The hybrid vessel folded space and emerged in the path of the advancing enemy formation. The first battle between humanity and the Devourers was about to begin. The enemy ships reacted instantly to the Retribution's appearance. Weapons that fired coherent gravity beams lashed out across space. Energy bolts that existed in multiple dimensions struck the ship's shields with devastating force. The Devourers fought with cold mechanical efficiency that showed no emotion or hesitation, but they had never encountered anything like humanity's hybrid warship. Commander Davis folded space around the ship and made it appear to be in 3 places at once. Enemy targeting systems could not lock onto a vessel that phased in and out of normal reality. The Retribution struck from angles that should not have existed and vanished before return fire could find its mark. Lieutenant Parker opened fire with weapons that combined human aggression with alien sophistication. Railgun projectiles traveled through folded space and emerged inside enemy shields. Fusion warheads phased through armor and detonated within Devourer hulls. The hybrid weapons struck in ways the enemy had never experienced before. The first Devourer ship died in a ball of plasma that lit up the darkness between planets. Its hull cracked open like an egg and spilled mechanical components into space. Strange organic shapes floated among the debris, showing that the enemy ships contained biological components alongside their mechanical systems. The remaining 4 Devourers adapted their tactics with frightening speed. They began firing in patterns that predicted where the retribution would appear next. Gravity beams created space distortions that interfered with the ship's folding drive. The enemy learned from each exchange and modified their behavior accordingly. But human creativity proved more adaptable than machine logic. The Retribution's crew found new ways to use their hybrid systems with each passing minute. Amy Foster rerouted power through alien crystal networks to boost shield strength beyond design limits. Bob Williams overloaded human weapons to fire at rates that should have melted their barrels. The battle turned into a deadly dance between hunter and prey, with both sides switching roles repeatedly. The Devourers had superior numbers and firepower, but the Retribution could strike from impossible positions. Enemy ships tried to surround the hybrid vessel, but it simply folded space and appeared behind their formation. Jake Harrison coordinated damage control teams as the ship took hits that would have destroyed any human vessel. Alien self-repair systems worked alongside human engineering crews to fix damage faster than the enemy could inflict it. Hull breaches sealed themselves while human technicians rerouted power around damaged systems. The second Devourer died when a fusion warhead materialized inside its command center. The third ship fell to railgun fire that struck from 7 different angles simultaneously. The fourth vessel tried to retreat, but found itself trapped in a gravity well created by the Retribution's alien systems. The last enemy ship self-destructed rather than allow itself to be captured. The explosion lit up space like a miniature star and sent shockwaves across the solar system. When the light faded, 5 Devourer scout ships had been reduced to expanding clouds of debris and strange organic matter. The Retribution hung in space among the wreckage with minimal damage to show for the engagement. The hybrid systems had performed beyond all expectations. Human determination channeled through alien technology had proven devastatingly effective against an enemy that had conquered half the galaxy. Captain Thompson opened communications with Earth and reported humanity's first victory against the Devourers. The battle had lasted only 17 minutes, but it proved that the hybrid approach could work. The broken alien ship had been transformed into a weapon that could fight the enemy on equal terms and win. The victory against the Devourer scouts brought humanity only a brief moment of celebration. Long-range sensors painted a terrifying picture of what was coming next. Thousands of enemy ships moved through space in perfect formation, like a plague of mechanical locusts. Each vessel was larger than anything humans had ever built, and they advanced with the cold patience of machines that had conquered countless worlds. Captain Gary Thompson studied the tactical displays on the bridge of HMS Retribution. The main Devourer fleet would reach Earth in less than 6 months. Behind them came even larger ships that defied imagination. World killers the size of moons, factory ships that could strip entire planets of resources, command vessels that coordinated fleets spanning multiple star systems. Dr. Alex Carter made a discovery in the wreckage of the destroyed scout ships that changed everything. The Devourer vessels were not purely mechanical as everyone had believed. Hidden within their hulls were organic components that pulsed with faint life signs. Billions of enslaved minds from conquered civilizations were trapped inside enemy ships and forced to serve the machine intelligence. The revelation explained how the Devourers had grown so powerful. Every world they consumed added to their collective knowledge and capabilities. Every species they conquered became part of their vast artificial brain. They were not just destroying civilizations but absorbing them into a nightmare fusion of flesh and metal. But the discovery also revealed a weakness. Dr. Rachel Stone found references in the deepest Catherian files to a quantum disruption weapon that could sever the connections holding Devourer consciousness together. The weapon would not destroy the machines, but it would free the biological components trapped within them. Billions of enslaved minds would be liberated, and the enemy fleet would tear itself apart from within. The weapon existed only as theoretical equations in alien mathematics. Building it would require resources that Earth did not possess and technologies that humans barely understood. But the most challenging requirement was the delivery system. The weapon had to be deployed at the heart of the Devourer fleet, where their command ships coordinated the entire invasion force. Commander Scott Davis ran the calculations through the ship's navigation computers. The mission would require the Retribution to fold space across half the galaxy and penetrate the most heavily defended formation in known space. The hybrid vessel would have to fight its way through thousands of enemy ships to reach the central command cluster. The odds of survival were essentially zero, but staying on Earth meant certain death for all humanity. The Devourer fleet was too large to stop with conventional weapons. Even if every human ship fought to the last crew member, they would barely slow the enemy advance. The quantum weapon was the only chance to save not just Earth but every free civilization still fighting across the galaxy. Admiral Peter Collins gave the authorization for the final mission during a meeting that would determine humanity's fate. The Retribution would carry the quantum weapon into the heart of enemy space, while Earth's remaining fleets prepared for a desperate defense. If the mission failed, humanity would make their last stand in the skies above their home world. The weapon itself was built in the deepest laboratories on Earth using materials salvaged from Catherian technology and human engineering. It looked simple enough to fit in a briefcase, but the quantum matrices inside contained enough destructive potential to reshape the balance of power across the galaxy. The device would either free countless enslaved minds or detonate and take the Retribution with it. Lieutenant Commander Helen Parker supervised the loading of the IN quantum weapon into the ship's most secure compartment. The device was surrounded by Catherian crystal matrices that would amplify its effect across the entire Devourer fleet. Human failsafe systems would prevent accidental detonation, but they could not guarantee the weapon would work as designed. Then, crew of the Retribution prepared for a mission that would take them farther from home than any human had ever traveled. Amy Foster programmed navigation routes through star systems that appeared on no human charts. Bob Williams checked and rechecked every system that would need to function perfectly in the depths of enemy space. Jake Harrison trained damage control teams for battles that would push the ship beyond its design limits. Captain Thompson addressed his crew for what might be the last time. 300 volunteers had signed up for a mission with no guarantee of return. They were soldiers and scientists and engineers who understood that their sacrifice might save billions of lives across the galaxy. Each person aboard the ship had chosen to risk everything for the chance to strike back at an enemy that seemed unstoppable. The Retribution departed Earth on a course that would take it through the dark spaces between stars. The hybrid vessel folded space around itself and vanished from human sensors. Behind them, Earth's remaining fleets prepared for the final battle while construction crews worked frantically to build more ships. Based on the Retribution's design, the journey to the Devourer fleet took 6 weeks of careful navigation through enemy-controlled space. Commander Davis guided the ship through routes that avoided the heaviest concentrations of enemy vessels. The Retribution traveled in stealth mode with its hybrid systems operating at minimum power to avoid detection. They encountered Devourer patrol ships twice during the journey. Both times the Retribution struck without warning and destroyed the enemy vessels before they could send warning signals. The hybrid weapons were perfect for these quick silent kills that left no trace for other ships to follow. The heart of the Devourer fleet was a sight that defied human imagination. Command ships the size of small moons hung in perfect formation around a central vessel that dwarfed everything else. Energy fields connected the ships in a web of communication that pulsed with the thoughts of trillions of enslaved minds. Captain Thompson gave the order to begin the final attack run. The Retribution folded space one last time and emerged in the center of the enemy formation. Alarm screamed across 1,000 ships as the hybrid vessel appeared where no enemy should exist. The battle for the freedom of the galaxy was about to begin. The quantum weapon armed itself as Devourer ships opened fire from every direction. The Retribution had one chance to deliver its cargo before the enemy could destroy it. Success would free countless civilizations from slavery. Failure would doom humanity and every other species still fighting for survival. The fate of the galaxy hung in the balance as the hybrid ship began its final mission.